tragedy of disillusionment, a philosophical perspective on marriage. The greatest tragedy of human existence does not lie in failing to obtain what one desires, but in obtaining it, only to find it bears no resemblance to the image one laboriously painted. Marriage is often the finish line for which many exhaust their entire youth chasing, yet upon touching that line, instead of a sense of triumph, many find only a hollow void and suppressed sighs echoing in the darkness of the bedroom. The excitement of pursuit and the revulsion upon possession do not stem from a change in the partner, but rather from the collapse of a system of illusions built upon ambition and an ignorance of the true nature of life. Before marriage, love operates on the mechanism of deficiency. Humans have a tendency to deify what does not yet belong to them. At that stage, the partner does not appear as a person of flesh and blood with a full array of flaws, but as a symbol of happiness. Distance creates a shimmering allure. It is this very distance that allows the imagination to weave virtuous qualities, filling the gaps that reality has not yet exposed. Appreciation and care at this stage are, in essence, forms of emotional investment to achieve the goal of possession. When one does not yet have, the mindset is always that of a hunter or a seeker, and the instinct of the seeker is to be sharp, sweet, and to display their finest essence to attract the object of desire. This is a law of biology, but also a trap of the ego. Stepping into marriage, the velvet curtain of expectation is violently pulled down. Emptiness appears the moment the sense of possession is fulfilled. This is the paradox of greed. Once an object is held in the hand, it immediately loses its magical value. Buddhism calls this the operation of tanha, or craving and desire, which consists of affection and lust. When desire is satisfied, the mind does not stop there. It falls into a state of saturation, followed by boredom. People become bored not because the partner has changed, but because the partner no longer has the capacity to create novel stimuli for a self that constantly thirsts for newness. In Buddhist philosophy, the root of this aversion lies in upadana, or clinging and attachment. Before marriage, people cling to an idealized image. After marriage, they cling to the right of ownership. Once a partner is regarded as mine, a person instinctively grants themselves the right to demand, judge, and mold the other according to their will. Appreciation vanishes because people believe that what already belongs to them no longer needs to be preserved. Much like a toy in a child's hand, while on the shop shelf, it is a dream. But once in the toy basket at home, it is merely an inanimate block of plastic. Marriage, if not illuminated by wisdom, will turn two companions into two captors, imprisoning each other in worn-out prejudices and habits. Taoism views this issue through the imbalance of yin and yang and the violation of the law of wu wei, or effortless action. Love in the beginning usually follows nature, allowing everything to flow gently. But upon entering marriage, humans begin to engage in yu wei, or conditioned and forced action, that is, intervening too deeply into each other's lives. People use the name of love to control and the name of responsibility to impose. The very effort to force a marriage to be happy is the knife that kills its vitality. The Tao teaches that extremes meet, and anything too intense or too excitable that lacks the root of stillness will sooner or later reach a state of coldness and decay. The emptiness after marriage is actually the universe's feedback, when humans intentionally try to turn a dynamic relationship into a static structure, trying to frame a living sprout within an iron cage of dry commitments. Why does aversion arise? It is when devesha, or hatred and anger, arises from reality's failure to meet illusion. In the days of passion, people often promise a forever that does not exist. But all things are anicca, or impermanent. Cells in the body change every second, thoughts change every minute, yet people demand that emotions remain stationary for decades. When they see that their partner is no longer the same as on the first day, instead of accepting the inevitable operation of impermanence, they develop a sense of being deceived, leading to resentment and hatred. This aversion is, in truth, a hatred of the very reality that one lacks the courage to accept. Buddhism does not teach people to abandon marriage, but teaches them how to love in mindfulness. To dissolve the emptiness, one must transform prema, or conditional love, into metta, which is loving kindness. Conditional love is a love with strings attached, characterized by possession and full of demands. Metta, within the four immeasurables of loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity, is a vast, selfless love that sees the suffering of the other to offer love, rather than seeing the flaws of the other to offer blame. Appreciation before marriage is the appreciation of a gift about to be received. Appreciation after marriage must be the appreciation of a living entity who is walking alongside you through birth, old age, sickness, and death. From a mundane perspective, imagine love as a feast. Before the banquet, everyone is eager, waiting for exotic delicacies. That is the state of expectation. But once full, even bloated by the trivialities of daily bread and butter, the initial appetite disappears, replaced by fatigue. Our mistake is wanting the feast to last forever with gourmet dishes, while the reality of life requires simple bowls of white rice. Emptiness appears because people do not know how to find sweetness in tranquility, nor how to savor the nothingness amidst the hustle and bustle. Marriage is often seen as a destination, but the teachings say it is merely an environment for spiritual practice. A spouse is the clearest mirror reflecting the trash within one's own soul. When we are bored with them, we are actually bored with the unrefined parts of ourselves that they trigger. Emptiness is a sign that we are living on the surface of emotions while lacking the depth of contemplation. If people come together only through sexual attraction or economic compatibility, then when those things reach saturation, collapse is inevitable. Taoism emphasizes huxin, or keeping one's heart as empty as a valley. Only when the heart is empty can it contain the differences of others. Aversion arises because our hearts are too full of prejudice, full of cravings, and full of models borrowed from movies and novels. When the heart is already full, a single unpleasant action from the partner is enough to make irritation overflow. To maintain appreciation, as in the beginning, one must learn to look at each other with new eyes every day. Do not look at a wife or husband through the memory of 10 years ago or the irritation of yesterday morning. Look at them as an entity existing right in this very moment, with all their weariness and their efforts. In deeper Buddhist philosophy, aversion also stems from the misconception that happiness lies on the other side, that is, within the partner. We marry in the hope that the other will fill our loneliness and will make us happy. This is a misplaced entrustment. No one has the responsibility to make someone else happy forever. When the partner fails to fulfill that impossible mission, we turn to loathing them. Realizing dukkha, or the nature of suffering and unsatisfactoriness, helps us understand that the nature of the world is unsatisfactoriness. Accepting the unsatisfactoriness of marriage is the first step toward finding peace within it. When the excitement passes, what remains is not emptiness, but truth. At this point, love is no longer roses or vows under the moon. It is the patience when the other is ill, the silent understanding when the other fails, and the act of washing dishes or sweeping the house together in stillness. That is when love begins to possess the substance of the Tao. The Tao does not reside in lofty things. The Tao lies in how we treat the person closest to us at the moments we find them most unlovable. Appreciation is not a natural emotion that lasts forever. It is a capacity that needs to be nurtured by santuti, which means contentment. One who knows contentment will see the mere presence of the other in the house as a blessing rather than comparing them to other people's husbands or other people's wives. Aversion is merely a state of the selfish mind when it is not satisfied. When we begin to observe our boredom with the eyes of an outsider, we will see it as ridiculous and fragile. It comes and goes like passing clouds. Only the profound connection between two life forces is real. Marriage is not a peaceful harbor for lazy enjoyment, but a temple, a place of practice for us to train the virtues of humility and altruism. Conflicts and boredom are the examinations that life presents to see if we truly know how to love, or if we only love the feeling of being loved ourselves. When this is understood, emptiness will vanish, because every moment of living together becomes an opportunity to realize anatta, or non-self. Ultimately, both excitement and aversion are merely extreme states of emotion, and emotions are always unstable. Those on the path of the Tao understand the need to transcend both states to achieve ordinary mind. Ordinary mind is not indifference, but a calm, enduring appreciation that does not depend on external circumstances or the behavior of the partner. True love is not two people gazing passionately at each other as they did when first in love, but two people looking in the same direction with a profound empathy for the nature of life. Marriage does not make a person happier or more miserable. It only reveals more clearly what already exists within each individual. One with a peaceful mind finds a pure land everywhere, while one with a craving mind finds a living hell even in a golden palace beside a beauty. Instead of asking why marriage becomes loathsome, ask yourself if you have ever truly seen the other as they are, or if you have only ever seen them through the lens of your personal desires. When illusion dies, it is not the end, but the beginning of a true love. A love that needs no excitement and fears no emptiness, for it has merged into the vast flow of life. Every meeting and parting in this world is governed by karma, but whether people stay together depends on internal transformation. Do not seek fulfillment in another person. Find it in the acceptance of your own flaws and those of your partner. Happiness in marriage is not about finding a perfect person to love, but learning to love an imperfect person in the most perfect way. That is the simplest truth, yet the most difficult to practice in the human condition.